this year the very esteemed Magsaysay Award. And apart from all the other awards he has achieved, we are very proud to have him with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, who is amongst us today. Sir, can we have you on the dais, please? Over to you. You have the mic with you.
We start with the film.
Sure. Can we have the film, please?
Sound.
So said Mark Twain. How about you? Do you miss your school or college days? You perhaps do, but perhaps not for the classrooms and teachings. You actually perhaps wished every day that the school be closed the next day so you could stay home. But here's a school in Ladakh where the most dreaded punishment is to be sent home for 2 weeks, where students learn by doing things, where they engage in various innovations to solve real-life problems like climate change, science by designing and building their own school, solar-heated mud buildings that stay at +15 even when -15 winters, kindness and compassion through introspection and meditation. A school where the criteria of admission is not your percentage, but that the conventional system has failed you. Hi, I'm Sonam Wangchuk from Ladakh, a remote mountain region in the Indian Himalayas. 25 years ago, when I was finishing my own engineering education, I saw that schools were a pain for everyone, but for mountain children, it was doubly painful and irrelevant. Children who spoke Ladakhi or Tibetan at home were made to sit all day memorizing in alien languages like Urdu or English. F for fan, S for ship, T for train. Till recently, every year, 95% of the students used to fail in the all-important 10th grade exams. Together with like-minded friends, we launched SECMOL, the Students' Educational and Cultural Movement of Ladakh, and said enough is enough. Working with the government, we rewrote many textbooks, retrained the teachers, and organized the villagers. And the results started changing too. For those who still failed, we started the alternative school that you just saw. And the results? Rigzin went on to become a top journalist and later became the education minister of Ladakh Hill Council at 27. He had failed his 10th grade 5 times. Stanzin became a filmmaker and has been winning awards across countries. He had failed 4 times. Miss Tinless is today a celebrated social entrepreneur. She had failed 3 times. But now we see that the state of higher education is no better. Not only for Ladakhis, who of course are doubly disadvantaged again, but for you in the big cities too. It's time we change this. We in Ladakh are dreaming again. This time our dream is to create an alternative university that will use all our learnings from the past 25 years. Once again, a hands-on doers university, where the School of Business runs real-life companies on campus. The School of Tourism runs high-end hotels and simple homestays. The School of Education runs innovative schools. The revenues from these sustain the university while the students get free higher education and of course hands-on experience. But this is more than a dream now. His Holiness Chetan Rinpoche, one of the top spiritual leaders in Tibetan Buddhism after His Holiness the Dalai Lama, is supporting this cause as the chief patron. The Hill Council government of Ladakh has earmarked roughly 200 acres of land, and the ice stupa artificial glaciers have already started greening this desert. A fully solar-heated, mud-built university township is being planned by some of India's top architects. Together, let's start the next learning revolution. where education is not limited to just the 3 R's, all too much to do with the head alone, where skills of the hands and kindness of the heart are given equal importance. Sure, it would take significant financial resources to materialize this ambitious dream. Recently, I was awarded the prestigious Rolex Award for Enterprise for the Istupa artificial glaciers. So join us. The future has already begun.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I bring you warm greetings from Ladakh, and great to be among people who value renewable energy and a brighter future for the planet Earth. I will share with you some stories from my life, this time connected with renewable energy. And I can tell you that I have been associated for rather long with this field. This school campus that you just saw in Ladakh, in the middle of the desert, was fully solar electrified with photovoltaics in 1996 already. And if you go back, we did our first building to be fully solar heated in Ladakhi winters, to not need any artificial fossil fuel heating in 1991. The association with sunlight, and my life goes even further to 1984, when I was kicked out of my family for the love of light. I can share a little bit how. So when I was doing my schooling and then 11th grade, unlike my friends, I did not know what I wanted to do. They were all very clear: doctor, engineer, administrator, and so on, and I didn't see why any of those until I stumbled upon this chapter on optics in 11th class, light. And that's when I got fascinated with all that you could do with concave mirrors and convex mirrors and lenses and light, and I started imagining what all could be done in a cold place like mine, where such contraptions could be used to guide light into cellars, to grow things in winters, and so many things. So I got so interested in that chapter that I went around asking people, where do you get to study more about this light and contraptions that can manage light? And after many people, an uncle of mine who was an engineer told me that mechanical engineering is what you should pursue. And that was the day when my decision was made, and I found a reason why to do and what to do. So, of course, I prepared for engineering, and 1 year later, I was in the National Institute of Technology in Srinagar. And the first year was very peaceful and eventless, as students from all streams studied together. Beautiful year. Not only that, they study humanities, ethics, sociology. I really like that engineers are, dipped into these aspects of life and do not become just monsters that only know how to put things together, machines and so on. So I love that. But at the end of that first year, we were asked to choose our branches. And you can guess what I wanted to, right? Mechanical engineering. That's why I had done all this. Meanwhile, my father happened to ask me, so you are choosing branches, what have you decided? And I said, mechanical engineering, of course. And he said, why? because I love these light and lenses and mirrors. And he said, don't be childish. You don't choose your field like that. There's no scope for mechanical engineering in a place like Ladakh. Go for civil engineering. I was like shocked. The very reason I was there was for this. And I, of course, said, no, mechanical engineering. I said, civil. Mechanical, civil. At the end of this exchange, he said, if you do that, you'll do it on your own. Don't expect anything from me. I think, like fathers, he was being a good test of my determination. I don't think he was bad or anything. And perhaps he expected that, okay, if that's the case, you won't support me, then I'll follow you, but please support me. But instead, I stood up and said, thank you very much, and walked out of the house, which perhaps he didn't expect. But that was easier. What was difficult to think of, wow, how I will finance my engineering for the next 3 years. I couldn't do many things to earn my expenses, so I decided to teach students in Ladakh who had many problems and challenges in their schooling, because it's a different climate, different context, and textbooks that are made for other places didn't work, and students used to fail by 95% in Ladakh those days. You know? So I went back to Ladakh in my vacations and started teaching. And that, I'm so grateful, this incident with my father, which compelled me to do this. But I must tell you before I forget, that parents are a good test of determination. If you are determined and show that you are successful in what you are determined, they become happy again. And so after 7 years, I made up with my father, just to tell you that. But I went to Ladakh and started teaching 10th grade students science and maths. And that's when I saw the condition of the education system and decided that this world doesn't need another engineer, but more reforms in school education. So I started more towards education reform, while my engineering was my first love, so I had to put it on the back burners for the time being, because I thought in life it's not just about what I need, but also about what needs me. While my love was for the mirrors and lenses, I thought I'm needed more by these students who, for no fault of theirs, were failing in their thousands. So I started working with education already as soon as I finished my engineering. At the same time, I kept on working with ideas of using solar energy, renewable energies in a climate like Ladakh. So you saw some of the applications that we have, and this school campus, the school that you saw, was a school that we started after we brought reforms in the normal general schools in the villages, where 5% only used to pass. When slowly, with all the reforms in textbooks, in teacher training, in community engagement, the results started changing to, say, 75%. We started focusing on those who failed still, because they are also not failing for any of their faults. They are just people who learn differently. So for them, we wanted to create a school that teaches differently or helps them learn in their ways if they don't learn the way we teach them. So this school was an interesting school in the middle of the desert, and this school was created by the students or with the students to engage them in more physical, experiential ways and help them learn the same things, but in a more applied, concrete way. And there we also wanted to explore and share with the world, grown-ups, how we could live lightly on this planet in harmony with nature. So for the students, this was a school where you could get a second chance if you failed, and therefore the school was different, and the admission criteria here was not your grades or percentage, but that you have failed, while those who have grades and percentage can be on the waiting list. Yeah? So that's how it was different, and it was different that we were experimenting with natural materials, natural sources of energy. The whole school was built with mud or soil, and it's a great tradition from thousands of years passed down to us by our ancestors. There was nothing wrong with it. Everything right, just that people couldn't make money selling soil because it's freely available under everybody's feet. So you couldn't have jingles saying, buy my soil, in 50 kg bags like you hear ads about cement. That was the only difference, otherwise it was a great material. So we built this campus with earth, with no side effects, with no, brown footprint. And then we used sun as the energy source to heat it, to power it, to do all kinds of things with it. And sun that shines above everyone's head, poor or rich. And again, you can't sell it, so it doesn't get promoted that much. But luckily now, I'm proud that our country promotes it in a big way, solar energy now with the present government. So we started with schools that are built of earth and powered by sun in the early 90s. By 94-5, we had built buildings that could take Ladakhi winters with minus 15 to 20, completely with nothing but solar energy, bringing it up to plus 15 to plus 20 degrees, and thereby students learning their sciences, their maths. So the chapter on heat, for example, in 10th grade, is all about convection, conduction, radiation. Instead of making them memorize these things, we would show them in the building with greenhouses where the sun heats the air gets hot and light, rises up, goes into the window of the building and enters the building, and then loses its heat to the walls, becomes denser and drops down, and pushed into the greenhouse again for the cycle to continue all day. You get to see conduction, convection, radiation in the most unforgettable ways. And that then helps these students learn. And it helps them stay warm also all winter. Now this was a way where rich or poor could live happily ever after once they used the human resource of your skilled hands to make the soil or earth meet the sun. This had very interesting side ramifications that I would like to share. Renewable energy has often many interesting side benefits also. So after we built all the schools in this way, and the children and the people all were housed warmly in Ladakhi winters, we thought, why not the animals? This campus keeps cows, and students take care of them. And we said, why not the cows? So we started building solar-heated cow sheds some 15 years ago. This was an instinct, a human instinct, to do our best to the animals. And we built very low-cost, solar-heated, passive solar, all passive in our case, cow sheds, which would stay at plus 15 and not minus 5 like other cow sheds. Interestingly, the cows reciprocated the generosity and started giving 2 to 3 times more milk. Yeah? Not that they understood the generosity, I don't know, I doubt, but it's again high school science. And it can be applied to enhance productivity of things like milk in the country, in the colder regions. So we were like, why did they give more milk together with our students? And that took us back to high school science, where children learn about warm-blooded animals and cold-blooded animals. And you would have had your lessons and maybe memorized. But what we learned was that warm-blooded animals like us and the cows have to maintain their body temperatures constant at 37 degrees in this case. A degree higher, fever. A degree lower, hypothermia. You can be killed. So this is what we have to do as warm-blooded animals. So poor cows have to maintain their huge bodies at plus 37 when it is minus 5 in the cowshed. Can you imagine where the energy will come to raise their body that much, 40 degrees above environment? Where? Their food, right? Their food is the only source of energy. When the food goes into warming up the body at this warm-blooded temperature, how can you expect milk from them? So no wonder in cold places cows dry up in winter. More so in a place like Ladakh, they hardly give any milk. But when we did this solar heated cow sheds, suddenly the cows started giving 3 times, 2 times more milk. And we could understand also the science behind it. So this could perhaps be used to have secondary benefits. And why I am mentioning these is that I want renewable energy to be more than just an option for investment, more business. It has to be our concern about the planet, about its siblings, our siblings, animals, plants, that drives us towards renewable energy, not only making money and investments and profits. It will be the same game otherwise. So I would like today's champions of renewable energy to consider these non-monetary, in this case it can be monetary, production doubles or triples, but in various ways. For example, while we talk of how we'll add gigawatts of solar energy, wonderful, great. Every milliwatt of brown energy should be replaced by green energy. I'm all for that. But we should also look at how else we can do, even if it doesn't mean business in the commercial sense. Let me give you one example. At this school, we have all kinds of interesting gadgets to trap energy and make things easier and so on. And sometimes people ask me, what is your favorite solar device? You have many. Your heating runs from sun, your cooking runs from sun, your water lifting pumps run from sun, your room heating, almost everything, electricity from sun. What is your favorite? And I say, my favorite source of solar power or solar lighting is an invisible one. It's not a gadget that moves, but it does the most benefit. And they ask, what? Now, I don't know if I can share with you easily, but it is a solar lighting system that I can give as free gift to everyone. And it will bring you value in your house, real value in saving energy. So what is this device that is not visible, not touchable? At this school, the students run the school like a little country and prepare themselves for the real world. So it has its own government that changes every 2 months, the government formed by the students, and students then run the school for the next 2 months and learn how to manage systems. Similarly, it has its own newspaper, kind of television, radio, and so on. It also has its own time zone, SECMUL campus time, which is 1 hour ahead of the Indian Standard Time. No sedition or, separatism intended, just that this school is run like a little country, so it has its own time zone, 1 hour ahead. But more than that, this happens to be the simplest way to put teenagers to sleep early. 1 hour ahead of the standard time, the clock runs, so they go to bed at 10, and it feels like they're going to bed at 11, okay? And they get up at 5 feels like getting up at 6. 1 hour ahead makes a lot of difference. So then I was thinking, solar lighting is not always through high-end, cutting-edge photovoltaics stored in lithium-ion or fuel cells and through LEDs. The more jumble of technology, the less fun it is. Highest technology is where technology disappears, things flow naturally. That's what I have come to value. Like the buildings are heated not by blowers and machines with gears, it's just natural convection. Similarly, the best solar lighting that I can think of is what happens outside your window at 5 or 6 in the morning. Your window is your solar lighting device. It lights up your room, but most of us sleep through that beautiful lighting till 7, 8, given a chance 9, and youth today maybe 11 if they're allowed to, right? And then we sleep through the bright solar lighting of the morning hours, and then we spend the day bragging about our photovoltaics, our lithium-ion, our LEDs. Crazy, isn't it? And then we stay up till 12 or 1 at night, flowing against nature, making light in darkness to run our things. Now imagine if the whole world, say 7 billion people, did just this. They went to bed an hour earlier, like these kids do, and got up an hour earlier and made use of all the solar lighting that happens naturally, going bed an hour earlier, thereby not using all the unnatural energy, even if it comes from photovoltaics or solar for that matter. Think of 7 billion people doing that. I was doing a back of the envelope calculation and found that thousands of coal-fired power plants could be shut down. Hundreds of nuclear power plants perhaps could be shut down just with people changing their sleeping. In other words, you could save the planet just by sleeping. Sleeping right. So these are interesting ways you can create renewable energy. And mind you, energy saved is energy made or generated. So any energy, if you are a true believer in renewable energy, you should not be only thinking of photovoltaics and technologies that you could sell. You should be thinking of saving the earth. Yeah? That's the bigger drive we should have for our steps. So, what I would like to propose to our great country, I'm really, really impressed and a great fan of Modi ji as far as renewable energy is concerned, for making this, international gift of proposing such programs like the Solar Alliance. But what I would also like to propose is that this effect of using the natural light is actually practiced in several countries. It's called daylight saving hours. Every summer, you switch the clock 1 hour ahead and you save millions of, I think, gigawatts of power. If a huge country like ours, India, just did that, from April, we switch our clocks 1 hour ahead of the current Indian Standard Time, people will go to bed earlier, 1 hour earlier. They'll get up 1 hour earlier than now to benefit from the natural lighting and not staying up in unnatural power. We will be saving gigawatts and gigawatts of energy without any investment, any technological mumbo-jumbo, just changing our watch like we have been doing for a decade at our school. This is what I would strongly like to propose to our country, India, to switch to daylight saving hours in summers and switch back to the normal time in winters, we'll do such a great service to the planet, because ours is a huge country with billion and more people. And if we do, perhaps China will do, another billion and more people. If these two countries just switch to daylight saving hours, you cannot imagine the impact on all these thermal and nuclear power plants. But unfortunately, right now, only small countries are doing that, do not have as much impact. We can bring that kind of huge impact. And I do hope that our country stands up to this. I can imagine 50 years ago, or at the independence, maybe our leaders thought that this country is not a well-educated country. There will be confusion if we have change of time and so on. But now we are in 21st century, highly educated nation with young people, outnumbering any other. So this is time that this country leads the world again by taking such a huge population to daylight saving hours. And that's what I would like to propose. And at this campus of ours, we continue to find new ways to avoid the high-tech, heavy investment and so on. Similar option we did in saving water or creating water really through these ice stupa seasonal artificial glaciers, where you just freeze the winter water by spraying it up in the -20 air using nothing but gravity of a downflowing stream. And thereby you create a conical ice structure, which, again, applying high school science or maths in this case, a conical structure, like a hemispherical structure, has minimal surface area for the volume of water it can contain. So if you freeze winter water, which is available in plenty because nobody farms in winter in cold places, if you freeze it in these shapes, then the sun is unable to melt it because it doesn't get the surface area. And farmers get volume because it is a shape that has maximum volume. And the shape makes sure that the winter ice stays till May and June, which is when there is scarcity of water everywhere because the glaciers are not yet melting. It's too cold after the winter. And they're smaller now year by year. So you make your own seasonal glaciers that last till June from winter water. Again, the message I want to convey is that it doesn't take rocket science. It takes high school science, just that water maintains its level. That's all it takes. Little high school geometry of area and volume, and you can have solutions for critical challenges of 21st century. So I would like to just remind that while we deal with high technology, we ought not forget the simplest things that can make the largest impacts in our country. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Wangchuk has kindly agreed to take a few questions from the crowd. And if some of you, can we have the mics, please? Request you to please introduce yourself and then ask the question, and limit it to the question itself.
I'm Ajit, founder Khushigram, and my question is that do you propose that in summers we should maybe sleep in the day for 2-3 hours because it's very hot, we can't go out to work, and we schedule, as you said, in the morning, so we start the day in the morning, sleep also in time, so 1 hour before, but then we have to, so we start work quite early, and we take rest in the beginning during the day.
Well, that I wouldn't be able to comment, because if you have a culture where siesta, like afternoon sleep, is a part of life, it may work very well. If not, it may take a lot of time adjusting to the lifestyle itself. So I won't be able to comment on what they should do with their time in the day, but one simplest way is to just switch the clock forward, and you don't have to do anything. The rest is done by your clock inside your body. It puts you to sleep early, saving energy. It gets you up early, making use of natural energy. So that's what I would suggest. A very simple thing you can do, and it can have impact bigger than billions of gigawatts that we may create using all the silicon and mica and things in the world. But this doesn't take anything, is what I wanted to propose. Yeah.
So my name is Ariji Chaube, and I'm working on a startup. So my question is, sir, that as you said, we should have different daylight savings timings. But sir, don't you also think that India as a nation, we are such a big nation, so there should be different times within the states also? Because daylight savings would happen, okay, in 2 seasons. One would be in the summer and one would be in the winter.
Yeah.
But India is such a big country, so...
I totally agree with you. I thought a lot about that before I proposed this, but I don't want to make it so complicated that people will say no because it is now summer and winter different times, and Gujarat and Arunachal have different times. That's when people might feel it's too much and there'll be chaos and confusion. I want to say just daylight saving for now. If it is done, then I come up with this. I don't want to club too many things. Yes, definitely. Right now, we are all disadvantaged. You are disadvantaged in Gujarat because you are behind Indian Standard Time, which goes through Allahabad. It's very far. And you are disadvantaged in Arunachal because you are way ahead of the Indian Standard Time. So it's not serving a broad country like this. We should have 2 time zones. But that, together with seasonal time changes, could become too much for the railways and others to handle. So while ideas are good, you have to present it in doable ways. So I was avoiding coming up with that. Perfectly good idea, but we should do one thing that will have the most impact. The most impact will come from summer and winter time, and then this one.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. Firstly, I congratulate you for getting Raman Magsaysay Award in this year. My question is so simple and so critical. Why you become a founding director of student educational and cultural movement of Ladakh? Why not become a director of student educational cultural movement of all over the India? Because your
All over
India.
all over India.
Okay.
Because your innovation requires, like state Madhya Pradesh where I come from today, then why not you explore your institution, state like Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, Odisha? Then
No, I believe if you take care of the minutes, the hours will take care of themselves. If you take care of each region of the country, the nation will take care of itself. I take care of Ladakh, you take care of Jharkhand, and somebody else from Andhra Pradesh takes care of that. We should keep meeting and take care of our own parts, and the nation will do it automatically.
sir, thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation, sir. Just I want to know more about what was the Rolex award which you got. Can you give some?
Okay. The Rolex Award is for enterprise and innovation, and the Ice Stupa seasonal artificial glacier made in Ladakh. This is not an award that you are nominated by the foundation. Unlike Magsaysay Award, where you don't even know you are nominated or you are selected, in Rolex Award you have to apply. So we applied. Why we applied? I've never applied for any awards in my life, but this one we did. It's a competition rather than award. Yeah? This is a competition of ideas from the whole world. There were 2,300 ideas, and this one got selected that year, 2016. Why we did was solutions like the solar heated cowshed, the ice stupa artificial glaciers, the solar buildings, the solar cookers, and so on, should not be one-off experience of a person or a place in a corner of a country. It should be a part of the life of every young people through their higher education. We thought that these should be what your higher education should be about. Your master's or your graduation and so on should be full of applying yourself and what you learned to solve problems of the place you belong to. Okay? But how do you set an example that then can snowball? So we thought we should put all such solutions in a university in Ladakh, an alternative university for mountain focus, because we are in the mountains. But how do you kickstart a university? It's not a child's play. It's a big deal. You need funds. You need awareness and understanding. So we thought, why not use a stepping stone, a launching pad? Like they say, when you go to Mars, you often use the moon to spin around and then catapult yourself to the Mars. So we thought, why not make use of a feature that you can find that will act like the moon? We saw this award as something that brings you money and publicity to people who may want to know about it. So with that intention, to create the university, to use this as a stepping stone, we wrote the competition, and luckily enough, we won it. And with that, the awareness started. That's perhaps why you might have heard about it. And the same day as the award was announced, we started a crowdfunding campaign to set up an alternative people's university in the mountains, so people could share and join hands. And for their awareness, Rolex's media mechanism started working for us. And we had roughly 1 crore of rupees from them, which we could say, we are contributing it to this cause. You can join us. It's better than begging and saying, give us money. Yeah? Thank you.
Mr. Wangchuk, my name is Partha Bosu. I work for Environmental Defense Fund. My question to you is, India has been a country where, if you see since the ages, history has been having a lot of innovations in our system, in the rural India, in the villages, in the agricultural side. But then it used to be termed as jugaad for a long, long time. And when the innovation from India, anything came from India, it used to be called jugaad. But anything that came from outside, we used to look at it like as if it's something great. I mean, what would be the two things that you think would be able to kickstart this change of image in terms of local innovation, a frugal innovation, and could actually innovate and nurture it?
Okay. The problem is in our mindset and in our institutional setup. So people who get to learn the basics of science and technology in these premier institutions of technology could do more than jugaad. Yeah, jugaad is innovation when done by somebody who, without science and technology, systematic education in that. They do what they can. It works half the time. It doesn't half the time. Therefore, it doesn't command a lot of respect in the world, seen as a cost-cutting solution that may work sometimes. So our tragedy is that our people who get into the IITs and such institutions are either very, straight-jacketed to be thinking wild and innovatively, or are so privileged and elite that they don't dare do something unusual. Because, the village people do their bit because they don't have a status to maintain. बेइज्जती उनकी होती है जिनकी इज्जत होती है, तो उनको जो भी करें डर नहीं लगता है. Whereas our people in IITs have too much at stake to be failing. And that's one reason why those who could do pure, real innovation that could command respect world over do not dare to, because they are conditioned that way. Our fear of failure is one reason. Fear of failure among so-called successful people, so that they would rather become an employee of a jugaad businessman rather than start their own innovation and lead the world. So that's another reason, I would say.
Mike.
Okay.
Hello, sir. This is Chaitanya. So my question is, I totally agree with your take on India having a lot of knowledge-based education where people focus on acquiring knowledge. But what is needed is there is a gap in people applying that knowledge to the real world, be it for their own problems or be it in developing skills. So my question is, the first question is, what is the biggest challenge you faced in making people change from a knowledge-based education system to an application-based education system? And the second thing is, do you think technology will be an enabler in, making the shift possible?
Okay. First of all, I haven't done enough to say that I have shifted people from knowledge-based to application-based, We have been working with
zone, given the deficient rainfall that you're going to experience, as well as you have come up with a solution in terms of ice caps and ice, what you talked about. But we are introducing this concept called Bhongru, which is an artificial innovation on rainwater sequestration in hilly terrain. So give us the opportunity to come and participate with you, as well as in the university, to create a better future for Ladakh.
300,000 people and few soldiers invest in making neighborly, relations with the neighbors, and invest instead in this kind of power highway, which will then evacuate hundreds and thousands of gigawatts of power produced on the Tibetan plateau, which is what Ladakh starts with, which starts from Ladakh, and then solve the problems of the country. Meanwhile, yes, local people have such issues, and great that you are providing solutions. Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned about this taking out making use of 45,000 square kilometer and taking out. Let me inform you, we are in the advanced stage, already planned everything, and a big mega plant, biggest ever plant ever in the world, we are planning to set up at Ladakh, and evacuation facility also planned. And very soon we are going to hear.
Okay.
That has been done precisely what you said. High insulation and low temperature, high efficiency. Only the problem related to evacuation has also been studied in detail. And very soon we are going to come up with that.
Wonderful.
Already we had thought about it, just
Wonderful.
to inform.
Wonderful. Yes. I'll just add to that. This discussion has been there, and local people in Ladakh do not care very much about this because they know they won't benefit. It's all for other places. But what I was proposing was that you can do solar power installations in a way that it can benefit. So let me just tell you while we are at it. Ladakh produces world's rarest, finest fabric called pashmina. And the pashmina